How are you?
Hey, doing good. I think I'm supposed to have my own space going on right now, but I think they forgot to start it, so I figured I'd come in here.
There you go. Welcome to the correct space. What do you think? Why do you think it's up 7% today?
Uh, obviously you've got some strong Tesla China numbers and you've got a 50 basis point rate cut. I'm trying to not get too overexcited. I think there's still some tough times ahead. Certainly rates coming down does help the auto industry. You saw automotive trade publications start mentioning that right away and hoping that this could be good for auto sales, helping to reduce inventories. But I mean, this is really a name that has been hit very hard by this tightening cycle, just in terms of their core auto business. And now in Q3, you're going to have a year over year increase in sales for the first time this year. You've got that happening, October 1st or October 2nd. 1 week after that, you've got the 1010 event, and you have all this progress on FSD, AI. It does seem like we're headed into a more positive environment for this name compared to the past when the headlines were really about year over year sales declines.
Yeah, and today we got the initial claims that seemed better than before, but again, that's only 1 week's data. So we'll see how the future um, weeks show. How do you feel about Q3 deliveries?
I think it is going to be a good quarter. We're going to see it up year over year for sure because we have an easy comp last year. There were some factory shutdowns in the third quarter. So for sure we'll beat last year's 435,000. I think the street consensus is somewhere around 460,000, which sounds about right to me. Some people have it a little bit higher. I think that it could be potentially a record quarter. It's in the cards, but I'd probably assign it a 20% probability or less. So I think we kind of fall in the 460 to 480 range ultimately on deliveries. Of course, there's still, 11 days in the quarter, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think it is going to be a year over year increase, not necessarily a record quarter, but with some of these incentives you're seeing, it could be a record quarter, I think, in the fourth quarter. China's looking good. US is looking good. Europe is dragging down a little bit. Lower sales of EVs in that market and just lower auto sales in general. Volkswagen doing some layoffs. But overall, it'll be nice just to say that it's not a year over year decline in sales for the third quarter.
Okay, good. Nick, how are you feeling about it? Uzi?
Hello, I'm on the way to the airport. I don't know if it's bad service, but
Okay.
the game today I think is all macro, and particularly because it's a cyclical sector.
Okay. Let's see if Rivian is showing the same. Up 4%. If I look at other sectors, all mega tech companies are up. Apple up 4, Nvidia up 5, Meta up 4, Google up 2. All chip stocks, AMD up 7%. Yes, green across technology. This is a risk on type of day. Even energy stocks are up, oil stocks, and oil's up 2% today. Interesting. Full 2035. How are you?
Good. I'm most looking forward to see if Tesla does or continues to do the low financing. Tesla's cash, get low financing out there, get as much of the market as possible, and really kind of give a punch to Rivian and the competitors who can't offer that yet. Because if we're talking about lower rates coming up, now is that sweet spot where Tesla can afford to do it before the rates drop when others can do it.
Omar, do you think Tesla is going to take that action?
I think that rates will come down for auto loans, pretty much across the industry.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if the rate cuts continue, and I think it's an if right now, then like if we get 100 to 200 base points of rate cuts over the next few months, then maybe. But yields came down pretty substantially over the last month. 5-10 year yields came down pretty substantially. And yet the auto loan rates didn't really decline. And since yesterday's action, the yields are up a little bit. So 10-year is at 375, 5 years at 350. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to new car loan rates. Uzi?
Yeah, I also that's why part of the cyclical or interest rate valuation you put into Tesla is, I guess, the financing spread between what they're offering and what would we peg it to, the 5-year or 10-year? That one narrow, especially if the rates continue to get cut.
Yeah, I think these are assumptions. These are not, that's not necessarily true. By the way, I think X did a new thing where when a speaker speaks, gets off mute, they jump right next to me, and that's really annoying. Why would they make that change? That's ridiculous. Bull 2035.
I just want to, if they did make that change, I feel bad for you, particularly when machine speaks.
By the way, like, are you guys seeing the same thing or no? Is it just me that's seeing it? Yeah, you're not seeing it, right?
Yes, I just spoke and I came next to you and I punched Nick out of the way on my screen.
Nick isn't even on the board. You mean Omar?
Now Nick is right next to you. And now I'm next to you.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is yet another bug on X Spaces then. And if I look at YouTube, I'm not seeing that people bouncing around. So it's just on X, literally. What the hell? Who decided on this change? This is ridiculous. There's like musical chairs right now on the speaker board. Why don't you guys like try kind of mute and unmute yourself a few times? Let's see what happens. No, that's not causing it. So maybe when you speak then. This is so weird.
What I'm saying is whenever I make a emoji type thing, I'm moving a lot.
This is ridiculous. Like, did they get into a room and decide like, how can we make this thing worse? Rule 2035.
This is the most exercise I've gotten in a while, so I'm kind of happy with the change.
Edward.
How are you doing? I'm in my car. How's the sound?
Sound is great. You must be in a newer one.
No, I'm actually testing the robotaxi network, sort of. I started doing Uber, so I'm kind of in and out of the place. People love it, man. They love the car. They love the FSD. It's insane.
Tell us more about it.
Yeah, this kid was about 26. Today I picked him up and dropped him off. He was just like, the car's weight steering and braking in it. I'm like, yeah, it does everything, but you still have to pay attention. And he was just literally, I saw the explosion off the top of his head. It was like he was just mind blown, and he couldn't believe they were about 20,000 used. He was just like 20,000. He's like, that's insane. I'm like, yep. I'm like, we're getting there.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, just a quick comment. This is the third quarter. There are 10, 11 business days left in the quarter, or less of their business days. So expect, for everyone's information, Tesla to get extremely aggressive, right? It's a quarter by quarter life when you're publicly traded. We're going to see the most radical stuff occur in the next 10, 11 days.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? Omar, by the way, your haters are in the audience. If I make you co-host, they get kicked off right away. That would be funny. Man, it's so amazing that like these haters, they hate, and then they still come into the space. No shame. Anyway, Neil, can you elaborate?
So by elaborate, I mean they're going to drop interest rates. They're going to, push. They're going to chase everyone to close their deals. It's the end of the quarter, right? And ultimately, a publicly traded company is judged on its performance quarter by quarter. So we are in the press, and it used to be a very real thing back in the day where people would volunteer to help Tesla, get through the end of the quarter, right? Because we were all so invested and concerned, and that's what would happen. I don't know if that's still happening. I hope it does, but ultimately they're in the press right now. They have 10, 11 days to make the third quarter everything it needs to be. Just like a sports game, right? You've got 10 minutes left. Every minute counts.
Yeah. Neil, what do you think is going to be the deliveries number for Q3?
I don't speculate on deliveries. I don't know, man. I appreciate the question, but I don't play that game because I'm a value investor. It's really just about demand, more than anything else.
Okay. Does everyone on the board agree with Omar that deliveries are going to be between 460 and 470? Omar?
Hey, this is a little bit off topic, but I just wanted to make the point that, for auto loans, another factor that really determines loan rates is delinquencies and whether people are paying their auto loans. So, although rates came down, if unemployment rises, that could change the average risk profile of an auto loan.
Can you repeat that?
So, right now the auto loan industry has really been plagued by delinquencies, people who are late on their payments more than 60 days, people who aren't paying. A lot of people are not able to pay these huge loans that they bought. They bought some car with a dealer markup during the pandemic. So even though the federal funds rate, the cost of capital may be falling, if the average risk profile is higher because you have a higher rate of unemployment, aka people are more likely to lose their job and pay, then the rate on the auto loan must be higher to account for that risk and let the company make money. So that's why you may see auto loans not come down as much as you want if delinquencies, late payments, and the labor market are weak.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I agree with what you said. It was interesting to me that the Fed penciled in a 4.4% unemployment rate for year end. And we'll see how that, so that means an increase of 0.2% from now to
Yeah.
year end. I thought that was interesting. I wasn't expecting them
Yeah.
to do that.
Powell's like, hey, the economy's great, you guys. We're going to cut rates by 100 basis points and unemployment's still going to go up. But it's a really good economy.
Yeah. Neil? So one of the things I just wanted to think about with EV adoption and sustainability, that curve is going to be affected by the fact that if I can get a 5K gas car, and not have to drive it too much, but it just gets me around, like the total solution over a 3 to 4 year period could be less than 20 grand, right? For some crappy ICE car that just gets me back and forth, etc. So I think the concern I have, I mean, it's also a good thing, but it's also a concern, is that, again, the cost of EVs has to continue to drop like a lot. Maybe that happens in the used market, but I don't know. It's going to be ubiquitous. It really needs to drop, like big drop.
I mean, EVs,
Unless I'm wrong.
Teslas, by the way, like we need to distinguish between, do you mean Teslas or EVs?
Well, I think Tesla is the only viable EV. So I mean Teslas because all other EVs are not good. So yeah, so basically Tesla's Model 3s, Model Ys.
Yeah, we need to.
get-
I really feel like we should be talking distinguishing between Teslas and other EVs. They are
all other
worlds
EVs
of
are
difference.
shit, basically,
And
from a
the
value
reason,
perspective.
excuse
Yeah,
me,
I'm sorry.
the reason is because also you can't curse on the space.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The reason is because not only from a quality perspective, but also price perspective and resale value perspective, autonomy perspective, infrastructure, service centers, charging stations, all of those things are just completely different. And I think what's happening is that people are looking at an average EV and concluding that Tesla suffers from all of the problems that other EVs suffer from. So maybe we can start in this space to really distinguish between them. Those two groups, Teslas and non-Teslas EVs. Yeah, I think banks are pulling back a little bit, Omar, to your point, pulling back a little bit from loaning for cars. There's a bit of an issue right now with car loans, rising delinquencies. And I don't know if this 50 base point cut is going to change it. To the extent that these longer end of the yield curve is rising is problematic. And so we'll see. Dallas?
Yeah, can we go back to delivery numbers for a second?
Yeah.
I would like to say that I personally believe they'll be over 475. I think with the incentives that were going on, I mean, I think people are underrating this quarter. I know the auto industry as a whole struggled, but I think the promotions that Tesla was running were insane. And I heard people who never talk about cars talking about them. So in my little world, that's enough for me as a bull to kind of think it's going to be over the number people are expecting. So there's a coffee bet proposal there for anyone who wants to jump on that.
Did you say 475?
Yeah, I said 475.
Yeah, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I just don't see it. I think it's a low probability here. But if anybody wants to take Dallas on that coffee bet, you're welcome to do so. I tried to get James Cat to agree to a 485 because he had said 485 about a week or two ago, and he said 485 plus, and he said 485 plus is looking good after Chinese numbers came out a week or two ago, and it sounds like he changed that tune a little bit. But yeah, 475 would be amazing. Dallas, go ahead.
Also wanted to test. My internet's different today. I'm testing out Starlink here at the house, so any sound quality differences, that's probably what it's from.
Dude, you sound great. That's awesome. I think Starlink is getting better and better. That's awesome. The only complaints I have right now is people dancing around like a crazy.
And
it's
I
like
can
a
add
dance.
that
It's a dance hall in my space, and I didn't want this.
when I started talking, I danced immediately up to the top next to Macro. So just for the evidence there.
Yeah. Okay. Omar, I saw you come off mute just a second ago. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously there are long and variable lags between monetary policy actually having any impact in the real economy. And the fact that they chose a 50 basis point cut rather than a 20 basis point cut speaks volumes to those who know how to read between the lines. And if you're an underwriter and you're looking at these delinquencies and you're looking at the labor market and you're reading between the lines of the Fed's decision, you're thinking, okay, I should probably be a little bit cautious here. And then another point on what Dallas said, the reason I don't think it's going to be a record quarter ever, I think it'll be a record Q3, but I don't think we'll go above the previous record of 484. The reason being that half of Tesla's sales are the Model Y, and everybody knows that there's a new Model Y coming that's going to incorporate stuff from the 3 and more. Cybertruck's a new product. It's very popular, but it's still not ramped to huge volumes yet. There are a lot of people who are waiting for that as well. Those things are really keeping a lid on sales. To the extent that it changes in Q4 and Q1, I think you'll have, the highest level of sales ever. But these incentives that we're seeing, $0 down, they're born in part out of desperation because everybody knows that, okay, there's this new Model Y coming. They have to throw something on the table to get you in the door. And they've got these great promotions, but obviously they are costly from a margin perspective as well.
Yeah. Wow, we have a lot of hands. Amazing. Let's go to Alexander. He hasn't had a chance to speak yet. Alexander?
Yeah, I agree with Dallas. I'm in 470 ballpark there. I actually saw 10 trucks today with brand new Teslas on them here in Sweden. I haven't seen that much ever, I think.
All right. JC, then Neil.
Hey, yeah, I agree with Omar on his take on the the information that Powell gave when he was talking about the 50 basis point cut. These banks, they have these PD ratios, these probability default ratios, which are, have a humongous impact immediately on earnings, like directly that quarter. And one of the things that they have to do is they have to read into that data. So it's not just you got the rate cut going one way, but they have these PD ratios that have to take into effect the economy, obviously unemployment and all that. And I could see us, and they can only lend based on how that PD ratio applies to their overall portfolio. And when these banks report their earnings in early October, this is what they call a critical audit matter, i.e. a CAM. And so in the audit opinion of the auditor, you will see all the stuff that the banks have to go through these PD ratios. And it not only directly impacts how they lend, it impacts earnings immediately. So I'm with Omar on this. I'm a little bit more tepid. I love the fact that they did a cut, obviously, but I would be a little bit trepidatious on this having like an immediate impact on lending from the banks.
Who wants to explain to me what trepidatious means? Do I need to pull up my chat bot? JC is using SAT words here. JC, I'm not that smart. English is my second language. I didn't do that well in verbal. Math is my language. Do you want to use a different word?
Cautious.
Cautious.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
Yeah, so I'd like to, for me, when I look at this space, about metrics, about data and those rolling up to metrics, and ultimately the most valid metric in this space is cost per mile. And I'll tell you what, whoever can win that race wins. Cost per mile. And I think Tesla's going to win that real big. But that's it. And I don't want to think that, it's not a glib statement that there's only one metric, but this is really, really important. Cost per mile. It doesn't matter, the hardware you buy, the software you create, whatever you do. Maybe you just have a bunch of independently wealthy people who want to lose money on you indefinitely, so you can have an inefficient technology, but have the lowest cost per mile. So you don't actually need the best technology. You actually just need the lowest cost per mile. That's all you actually need. But I still think Tesla's going to win that race. That's the metric to me that matters. CPM, cost per mile.
Clarify which metric matters more.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I heard that, Yaman. Did you ask me a question?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Now I can.
Okay. Never mind. I was just joking, but the moment has passed. Alexander?
Yeah, a real metric would be cost per kilometer. I'm just saying.
Oh my god. Fine.
Neil, do you think cost per kilometer matters more than cost per mile?
Completely invalid. It makes no sense.
When you say
Delete.
cost, which currency are you talking about, Neil?
Said kilometer. I can't even understand.
We didn't fight a revolution to
Oh
use
my
kilometers.
I quit.
I'm gonna use that lie, JC. Lumi?
Yeah, I wanted to make just one point. With the rate cut, would the US dollar is devaluing technically against other currencies. Would that mean there's an arbitrage opportunity, like Tesla, an example? Basically, as the US dollar slightly devalues, if there are more cuts, would that mean then X become more valuable for foreign currency buying in America? I don't know. That's just some theory I came up with recently.
Yeah, but it's not getting devalued that much, right?
Very slightly, right? But I saw this in London with the FTSE when the pound lost a lot of its value very quickly through the same thing. It was very interesting. A lot of these like blue chip companies went up in price and people were kind of confused by it.
Yeah, changes in currency, unless they are, 10, 20, 30% level, is not that important to Tesla because for a couple of reasons. One of them is that Tesla has production, and nowadays, most of the production in that geography is sold in that geography. So that's one reason. And, so Tesla has, Tesla has a natural hedge. So it doesn't have to use these derivatives and swaps and everything to hedge its currency exposure. And also, even if the currency appreciates, let's say 10%, and then there's also the possibility they can depreciate 10% later on. So it's not really, from earnings quality perspective, it's not that important anyway. So for Tesla specifically, it's not that big of a deal. Tesla's a global company, has a natural hedge.
Well, all right, I'll give you this case point. So not for the company's operations, but for the investors, right? So there's two people, one in America, one in London. The dollar to the pound is now 2-1, like it was 20 years ago at some point, right? If you're buying Tesla in the UK, you technically you get a better deal at that point. So the idea is that outside investors from around the world.
Yeah,
would
Lumi, this
buy
is
more.
this is not a topic I'm interested in. This is immaterial. Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate what you're saying. It's just that I've considered these things, and you're only talking about a couple percent change. And I mean, for God's sake, how many investors do we have in London? And how many of them are investing based on a couple percent change? Maybe you're more focused on short-term trading kind of aspects, but it's not that big of a deal. Neil?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that that's arbitration, right? That's the difference, right? To the extent that you can arbitrate, you can make a lot of money. That's all you're talking about there. Whether it's day trading or value or anything else, it's where the value proposition.
Not really, because when you talk about arbitrage, like I think people really throw the word arbitrage too casually because arbitrage means like there is literally no risk, right? You can kind of because you kind of do, but in Lumi's case, he's making an assumption that these currency values will either kind of continue to appreciate or depreciate, relatively speaking.
I agree with you.
And like everything else equal kind of assumptions as well, which obviously is not the case here. So, can we move on to more important topics? Thank you. Actually, we can't because I make the decision. Thank you very much. JC?
No, I was just going to say that sounds a lot like that Japanese carry trade that kicked everybody in the butt a few months ago.
Yeah. Omar, there is a kind of worry out there that now that the Fed cut 50 basis points, it can lead to a second wave of carry trade unwinding. What do you think about that?
It's possible. I think the market is always unpredictable. So it's hard to say what the impact of, for example, the carry trade is going to be versus a million other moving pieces in the economy that shift when the Federal Reserve moves half a percentage point. So I guess we'll see.
I think the Bank of Japan was supposed to decide today, right? It says just 1 day ago, Bank of Japan likely to forego rate hike amid concerns over borrowing cost rise 8 hours ago. Wall Street Journal said Bank of Japan expected to stand pat. Okay. 3 hours ago, Bloomberg says BOJ seen keeping rates on hold. When are they going to decide? Anyone know? No. What about our currency? Lumi, you're our currency expert now, since you're so pushy on it.
All right.
When are they
I
going to
will say
decide?
this. They're in such a problem, the Bank of Japan, that I don't know if
Oh,
they
no,
even
no.
know
The
what they got to.
question is, when do they announce their decision, Mr. Currency expert?
I don't follow the Bank of Japan because it
Yeah.
won't do me
How
any
do you not
favors.
follow the Bank of Japan?
Because
They
they're
are
going to go
one of the top.
bankrupt.
They're one of the top 3 important central banks. Wow. Amazing.
It's not going to affect my decision.
Did you see what I posted today? Let me read it to you at the top of our screens. This is the standard to be on the speaker board. Okay. This is the bare minimum acceptable product, or whatever that saying is. Tesla Live speakers are elite, always have the facts right, able to stand high and constant pressure, can switch topics instantly, produce original insights, reason from first principles, communicate well, respect one another, and work as a team. So Lumi, what's your original insight? Let's hear it.
I mean, if you want to give my insight, okay. So I'll school you on this. The same asset value which you were saying was no risk is no risk because those 2 shares are the same thing. One Tesla share in the UK is the same in America, my friend. Doesn't matter the currency, and that's what arbitrage truly is without risk. Bank of Japan. Doesn't matter when they announce it because it's going to be a tantrum either way. So the timing of it makes no difference, in my opinion, and that's why I don't follow it. In all honesty, I have many degrees. I don't want to post them because basically we talked about this last time 6 months ago. Now you'll drop me down because this is what you always do. Peace.
What are your degrees?
Finance, a little bit of mathematics, you name it, different things. But at the end of the day, what I don't know is a lot of things. What I do know is that you always bring amazing facts to this space, and I'm humble enough to listen to it. It's not about me, it's about everyone else.
Let me ask you something. What is your top topic where you know it better than anyone else in the space? Give me one, as specific as it might be, but it's got to relate to Tesla somehow. Whether macro, Tesla, what can I ask you about? Like one thing that I gotta say, Lumi knows this best.
I don't know because to pigeonhole people is dangerous. If I say that, then we can just have both of us chat on at the same time and go through it. All I'm saying is this: is that I know random things. I forget a lot of things, but my speciality probably would be space and science and random other things like that. But I will never go into this. I don't want to give away too much.
Okay, fine. All right, space and science. I have a pretty good understanding of my speaker's strengths and weaknesses right now on the board.
My biggest weakness is language, so I'll give you that. I'll give you that one.
All right. Omar, what else is new? Actually, let me just say real quick. The fact that Bank of Japan is expected to hold is interesting. So I'm guessing they haven't announced just yet. So we still don't know when they're going to announce. If they hike when they're expected to hold, that could lead to a bit of a unwinding thing. I don't know if that's going to be material, but I guess we'll find out if they hike. Dallas?
Yeah, I've got a question regarding FSD.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is it fair to assume this 12.5 branch that they're sending out on this pretty steady rollout is going to be kind of the new platform for FSD like 12.3.6 was? And I understand that they're always A/B testing various little branches, but is this going to be the new base version?
Omar?
Sorry, I think I'm having some issue where I can't hear him.
Dallas, can you repeat?
Yeah, so just kind of simply put, is this new 12.5 version that they're pushing out kind of steadily over the past few days, is this what you guys are expecting to be the new 12.3.6? Or, I know someone mentioned earlier a great point. The next 10 days, we're going to see some stuff getting pushed out before the end of the quarter. So are you expecting a new version, or is the new 12.3.6 going to be this 12.5 is kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know that, right? We don't know that. They haven't said anything. I mean, even 12.3.6, we didn't know until it went wide and it became a kind of stable for majority of the fleet for several months. At the time, if you remember, Elon had said 12.4 is coming. It's going to be this times better by 2 weeks or something. And these things are, I think, TBD for most people, including probably people at Tesla as well. So we haven't heard about the 12.6, I don't think, or it's been a while since we last heard about it. Omar, do you think this 12.5 is going to go wide and it's going to be the version that sticks with majority of the fleet for a while, kind of like 12.6 did?
Yeah, it seems like it based on what we're seeing so far.
Yeah. Uzi?
And then you have the Cybertruck question.
Go ahead.
No. And then you have the Cybertruck question with 12.5. You have to get to the Cybertruck.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Lumi?
We always go through this, but what is the prediction for the first million Optimuses again?
I think after Elon said on All In Summit, he said about 1 million per year produced by 2030. So probably like 2029, 2030, maybe. Omar, what do you think?
I have no clue.
Yeah. So say 5 years seems to be the rule of thumb right now. What do you think, Lumi?
I mean, 5 years would be amazing. 10 years is still within our lifetime. But once that happens, everything changes.
Do you think 1 million humanoids will change everything?
Yeah, because after that point, then it's basically a scaling problem, in my opinion. And the various other industries which will come from it will then start to flow back into it. So it's like a self-fulfilling business model. It just grows exponentially.
Well, our robotics expert right now on the board is Alexander. Alexander, what do you think?
Well, industry robotics alone is like 300,000 units per year. So if you can take a bit of that market, maybe, but I don't know. There's so much competition right now. You have the Norwegian company X1 is pretty impressive, I think. So I think it's the competition about getting the brain right. Production will not be hard in this regard.
Okay, Uzi?
I agree with Alex's assessment. It's the brain. I checked our docs really quickly. I said Q1 2029.
Okay, great. Yeah, Uzi was my guest for the 3rd episode of Tesla Forecasts. So I'm rebranded Tesla Forecasts. First episode was with Dirty Tesla. Second episode was with Omar. Third was with Uzi. And we're gonna have more. I'm gonna have everybody on the board right now, hopefully, if they except for Lumi, if they agree. I'm kidding. You're welcome.
No,
Too.
I understand.
No, it's okay. You're welcome. I just want to pick on you. Yeah. So 2028, 2029, 2030, somewhere around there. But on the other hand, Figure AI's Brett Adcock says they're going to be in the homes certainly in 3 years, in households certainly in 3 years. And I don't know how you put it in the households without producing a million of them, because I think the first use is probably going to be factories and industrials, it seems. But yeah, Uzi?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Brett Adcock's asking how to mass produce products, so I don't think he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Neil?
I'd just like to say, if you're going to try and enter the consumer space, the retail space with a high dollar product, like the brand is critical. So if this is just some random brand with some random proposition, please, like, you need to build trust. This is very difficult. Tesla did something amazing. It's very difficult to get people to buy a product and trust it. They need to see a lot of things: service, quality, warranty, etc.
Alexander?
Yeah, Brett, he shot himself in the PP. I mean, he blocked me as well, and I know how to scale production. So I don't know if it's so productive.
Did you reply? Did you say something? Or did you what did you do?
I only asked if he's gonna use some special material for the body, and he blocked me for that. So I guess I was right.
No way. No way he blocked you for that. Come on. You know what I noticed over the years is that when people say I got blocked because of this, it's never because of that reason. So what's the real reason?
Are you calling me a liar, Yaman?
No, maybe you misremembered. Just try to remember harder.
I honestly only commented on when he released the number 2 version. You see, I already forgot that is how much I care about this guy now.
Okay, Lumi?
Yeah, no, I don't know how to follow that, but I was going to say, is there like a trade-off eventually if Optimus is like average work hour cost per hour comes down to a certain point, it replaces X amount of jobs, starts off with like janitors and people folding laundry, but as it like becomes so effective, it I don't know that those are kind of cheaper jobs, but the point is that there must be this like it's going to replace some of the workforce first, but some of them kind of get paid lower per hour than what it would be. So there's that gap again. When that drops down to a certain point, that's when you'll see the biggest changes. I don't know.
Okay, Alexander?
Yeah, that is not the first thing Optimus will do, like replacing like whatever things humans do today. They are going to replace probably standard automation solutions that are already in place in industry.
Is that because of the risk of like damage to human beings, like an insurance and stuff like that? It's just cheaper to have automated robots which is plugged in on a production line.
Yes, I mean, if automated like production solution makes something wrong, it's not a bigger deal. You just reset it and start it over. But if humanoid robot sets your house on fire, that's not good.
Neil?
I just like to talk about big bot money, what bots are going to do to make big money, and I'll tell you what. If they can do laundry, they can make food. That's big bot money. I'm just telling you right now. Just think about it.
I agree. When do you
What
think that's
don't
going to
we
happen?
want to do? These are dirty jobs. If they do them dirt cheap, we're winning. Thank you.
When do you think that's going to happen?
Damn, not soon enough, man.
Okay.
Really,
Alexander?
realistically, 5 to 10 years from now, because there's going to be a lot of specificity with your bot, right? It's like, oh, you do it like them, no, we do it like this, right? Like, it's going to have to be a trainable bot. So I think that's like kind of annoying, but
Interesting. Alexander?
Yeah. So, what are you willing to pay for a robot that does laundry?
Neil?
Well, I'll tell you what. Does it fold it? Does it put it away?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, 10 grand a year.
10 grand a year.
Yep.
Production automated robot. You would get $100,000 for that solution or more. Do you think they're going to focus on your laundry?
So I hear you. But what if, yeah, what if it was a shared resource, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
not
it's
just
not
mine,
going to
but it's
be
everyone
like,
else's, right? You can do the whole floor. It's not just my laundry. I don't need you to be, you know, you don't have to just know my pants. You can know everybody else's pants too. The whole floor. Go ahead and do it. Right?
yeah, so you'll be like, oh, why is there aluminum chips in my pants? Yeah, because it walked from the production line into and do your laundry.
Like,
I
why are your
guess.
pants so big? Such a big waist. Such short legs.
Neil is super happy today. Either happy
Sorry,
or
I'm
drunk.
just messing with you
Have you
guys.
been
But hey,
drinking? You
you'll
sound
never.
you sound Joey. You sound kind of like Joey. Lots of Joey today. Is it
Appreciate
because the
that.
stock is up 7%?
Probably.
Yeah, I'm
It's
guessing.
great to no, I'm messing with you guys. No, it's just fun. It's great to talk about it. I love you guys. I like
Okay,
talking with intelligent people. They're hard to find. Here's where I find them.
keep talking.
Especially you, Yaman. No, you guys are great.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple other people requesting to speak, so I'm just gonna move people around a little bit, but don't take it personally. Neil, you'll be back with your Joyness. XAI.
Yeah, I know this topic of the robots doing our chores and things. I mean, for me, traveling, so will they let my dogs out, let them in, groom the dogs, feed them, take my kids to school, pick them up, make meals? I mean, it could be invaluable to me. I would happily pay $100 or $200,000 for this.
Okay, I want to ask you. Yeah, I want to ask you about macro in a second, but let's go to the hands real quick. Crunch.
So imagine if Optimus is trained by the finest chefs in the world under all circumstances, and that's provided with your lease or purchase of Optimus, as opposed to, for example, house cleaning chores, which is, well, the kitchen scenario is fairly conventional. Okay, everybody has a cutting board and a sink and all that stuff and a stove. Whereas in household chores, it's all different, and you'd have to wear some sort of training suit for Optimus to learn your chores. Thanks.
Alexander.
Yeah, I really hope they get the concept of hot dog right.
Man, I so love this conversation right now. We have a very strong group of speakers, and everybody's participating on a topic that is material and interesting. It's amazing. I'm loving it right now. Uzi.
I just finished my Michigan, and I don't know what we're talking about. I think Optimus on it's not going to be on the factory floor making the cars, if that's what Alex is saying. If anything, picking places as far as it'll go in a factory setting, in my opinion. For Optimus in the kitchen, I think that's pretty achievable. Pretty sure Squibbles talked about AI amateurs using OpenAI's vision products, or like OpenAI, and taking a photo of the food and it reverse engineers the recipe. So, I mean, once XAI gets to that point, your Optimus can do that. But I don't know if you want Optimus with a knife. It's another question.
Good. If you're watching this on YouTube, please take a moment to like the video and reply below the video. Like the video because it pushes out to new viewers. That's the limiting factor right now. We need more discussions below the videos. We need more people to like the video. to push out the channel to new viewers. Thank you for taking the time. Hustle Town.
I'm not sure if I'm worried about Optimus walking my dog. I'm more worried about him replacing my dogs and pets. I don't think I need an inferior animal. If this thing's sentient, can have conversation back and forth. I'm more worried about it replacing people, let alone doing some other of these odd jobs. What do you guys think about that?
Neil.
I think Optimus replaces jobs, not family. So you're going to still walk your dog. You're going to still do all the things that you hate related to your family, because that's not what Optimus is here for. Optimus is ultimately here to just run around the factory and constantly move shit. I'm sorry, but that's all it's going to do. And it's going to do that relentlessly, endlessly, tirelessly, beyond any other resource, because it's always been humans versus machines battle. It's been that way forever. It's been that way since industrialization. We move labor around the globe, right? It's like, who can make clothes the cheapest, who can make this the cheapest, or that. But ultimately, those that make the stuff the cheapest are generally leveraging machines. So that's all that's going to happen. We're just going to do this again.
Dallas.
Someone earlier touched on, I think they thought you're going to have to wear a training suit to make routines and stuff like that. I don't know that that's the case. I actually don't think that is the case unless someone knows for sure. But also, I wanted to touch on, I think the first market they go after is the home, right? Residential customers, that's been their base for all their products so far. There's a loyal fan base behind Tesla. Every Tesla owner is going to want to get their hands on one of these things. Price aside, we saw that with the Cybertruck. People are willing to pay a bunch of money for cool Tesla products. So I think that's the avenue they go down first. Someone touched earlier on as well, kind of where they're going to fit in society super long term. I agree. I mean, I think there is a problem there. There's a really cool Ray Kurzweil quote that says the human beings are the sex organs of the machine world. It's true. I mean, that's going to be the case. So there's going to be some obsolescence down the road for people. It's living crazy times. I don't know.
JC.
If Optimus can accompany my wife to wedding showers, baby showers, and the next time the new kids on the block have a reunion tour that comes through Houston, I will pay $1 million for it.
There you go.
You could
Highest bid.
lease it. You could just lease it.
No, he wants to pay $1 million. Don't talk him out of paying $1 million to Tesla. You're just gonna have to wait for your robot because you're only willing to pay $100,000. Who wants to pay more than $1 million? The first spot goes to Uzi.
Well, I think if manual labor becomes meaningless, then JC is going to be going to a lot of wedding showers in the future because there's going to be nothing else to do except for create meaning in your own life. But I will say, if manual labor is useless and AI takes a lot of away of like collar jobs, we could say labor is less valuable, but the balancing act is capital. So if you double click in, you probably want to own the company that's making the bots, i.e. Tesla.
Alexander.
One legit question is, when will Optimus replace Machine's mom? But another point, I think like the home it's like solving FSD, and factory is like autopilot. They're gonna start with factories, not with a home.
Neil?
Just like to reiterate the point that Optimus works in the world of atoms, not in the world of software. He's not a SaaS hole. He's an actual physical atom mover, and that's a really big deal. It's just two different worlds. So I think that's extremely important for people to understand what makes money in the world of atoms versus what makes money in the world of software.
Hustle.
I would say that would be the same thing we would say about these cars too, but I know we know that this is going to be a SaaS model for these vehicles. Why would Optimus be any different?
Oh, but they both live in a world of atoms. Like both of these are high dollar, insanely engineered, high cost solutions for the physical world. There is no difference between Optimus and FSD. They're both living in the world of atoms. They operate in the world of atoms, which is the hardest world to operate in.
Omar, you're awfully quiet today. What's going on?
Sitting here, I have some thoughts, but also reading some things.
Will you want to share what you're reading?
I mean, nothing too interesting. I mean, I think obviously with Optimus, everybody can see that we're looking down the barrel of a massive, massive market, bigger than personal computers, bigger than phones. Everybody's going to have multiple of these things supporting them. What we're really looking at here is the complete automation of the economy, which is to say that you could take every human, send them to a different planet, and Earth's economy could still continue, powered by AI and robots. And so it's a very different economy then. It's not, okay, I have to go do this, but rather, what can be automated. The trade off between labor and capital becomes even more fluid. However, when you look at what we have today, we don't quite know how to actually make this work yet. It is, we're starting to get a sense with AI and deep learning how to make something like this work, which is why you see a lot of people getting interested in it. But when you think about really like, so what really throws a lot of people off in AI and robotics is there's a huge gap between a demo and a real robot that never falls down, never knocks everything over, always does everything correctly. So you can really easily give a demo in a constrained environment where you don't have that many variables. For example, you can give a self-driving demo, but then actually creating a self-driving system that works anywhere in the world, understanding all the traffic rules and cultural differences and driving patterns all across the world, that's a much taller order. So today we really have the state of the art in terms of a software that can really adapt to any scenario is FSD. And that is getting pretty good. It can now drive for hours without you touching anything in many cases, but it still makes mistakes all the time. And people are always messaging me, hey, I did this, I did that. Someone messaged me today, oh, I drove over a dead skunk. Um, and That's kind of the state of the art, right? So, in terms of really getting robotics to a place where even it makes economic sense in a factory, let alone in a home, we're really, so several software breakthroughs in terms of the brain are needed. In addition, the cost today is way too high. Elon's talking about even a cost of 20,000. That obviously is not going to be palatable to an average consumer unless it really has a ton of earnings power. So, really, in addition to a brain being created, which involves several software breakthroughs, the likes of which we have never seen or imagined before, you also need a dramatic scaling of the manufacturing to lower the cost down to maybe a few $1,000s ideally.
Well, GPT-01 preview is set to be 120 IQ. Doesn't that, like, what if GPT-01 quality, let's say XAI product was installed on Optimus today, isn't that good enough to sell a few 100,000?
No. I mean, you need to have the robot walk and not fall over. Even if someone's kid is being a dumbass on some roller skates with the pizza and, you know, they fall and the pizza falls and the pizza hits the robot's face and the robot slips on the pizza. This is the kind of stuff that happens in the real world. So if you buy this robot, hey, check it out, honey. I just got this robot for $20,000. Then it starts kicking your kid in the face. It walks straight through your glass door. There's a hole in the glass. Um, punches your wife in the face, ruins her favorite, food that's in the fridge. It really needs to be so good we cannot even imagine it today, involving techniques never before heard of in the software world. So, you can get something primitive, you can get it on the harness, but I mean, if you thought FSD was hard, the roads have lines. Okay, stay in the line, it's easy. Houses don't have any lines. They're unpredictable. So this is at least 10 to 100 times harder than FSD.
Wow. I mean, I wish Machine was here right now. Let me see if I can bring him in here. 10 to 100 times more difficult than FSD. Wow. Oh, I can't get him in here because I kicked him off from the DM. Who is he?
There was a term one of the 1X employees used, I'm forgetting it, but basically he said with the robotaxi, you can retrain the model and collect data at a certain point, whereas you can't do the same exact thing for a humanoid. For example, like cracking an egg or doing a household activity. You can't send the robot back into someone's house and say, try this again. The other point I wanted to bring up, I'm blanking on, so.
Neil.
So I'd like to say that ultimately with Optimus, if you're going to scale it again, I think the house is the last place that you sell it. Direct to consumer is the most complex revenue transaction. Commercial transactions are simpler. So ultimately, I just think that's where we're at. It's great to think that Optimus is going to be your personal robot, and I think maybe eventually they will be, but they're going to be manipulated and what do I say, leveraged commercially for decades. I think before they become a retail scenario. That's my prediction. It's just simply based on economies of scale, right, and simplicity, because ultimately you want this robot to do the simplest thing possible to make money. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of commercial things that are very simple.
Omar?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it can have a place in the home within the next few years for sure, probably within 3 years. By that time, you can train models that are pretty damn reliable and that are failure tolerant. So when it does fall, it knows how to fall on its hands, it knows how to get itself back up, etc. And I think the initial market can really be, as some companies have said, AI assisted uh, plus teleoperation. So if you just think about, the ability to put on a VR headset and see exactly what the Optimus is seeing, and you move your hands, and the Optimus also moves its hands following your movement, but uses AI models to make sure it's gripping the objects correctly and all of that. You could be Elon Musk and be anywhere in the world. You could be in your private jet flying with Starlink, put on a VR headset and be in Starbase, walk around Starbase, pick something up, talk to somebody, then be in Giga Texas, be in Tesla's Fremont factory, be in XAI's data center, all with just an Optimus there. And just like with supervised FSD, I think this could serve as the training data set. The robot would obviously know how to do a lot of things. Like you could say, for example, hey, walk to this room and then let me know. I'll start my session, put on the VR headset, whatever. So it would be able to do a lot of things itself, and you could sort of supervise and fill in the holes as a way to sort of get it to market. That's kind of what they're doing right now. They have people in VR rigs kind of giving training data. So selling it and having it have some capabilities and having it allow you to sort of remote in could be a way to generate a lot more training data. And then eventually at some point it just becomes completely autonomous.
Who is he?
Yeah, so the other thing I remembered, there's teleoperation, but then I guess there's the question of like the scaling data gap. And there's a couple of approaches. One new one I just learned is that I put Scott Walter's explanation in the chat. But basically, the robot is using past experiences and blending it into a physical scene. So they are simulating data to sort of close the training gap. Um, Another approach is with NVIDIA. They are basically simulating different approaches to solve the same problem. So let's say it's like picking up a plate. So you can pick up a plate in multiple ways, and they're also trying it with different environments. So you can pick up a plate in your kitchen or office, whatever. So there's multiple interesting approaches that are developing around humanoids that you don't really need with robotaxi.
Alexander.
Yeah, teleoperated humanoid robots sounds like something Americans really need.
All right. Any other questions, comments about Optimus? I really would like to deeper into these conversations with each one of you on my YouTube channel under deeper conversations, and have everyone, put out some predictions. Talk is cheap. Let's get them on paper. And you can watch the 3 episodes with Omar, Dirty Tesla, and Uzi, and kind of get a feel for a half hour, 40-minute conversation that's all encompassing, and we can go through some predictions and then do a post-mortem analysis later. Dallas?
Yeah, I have a prediction. So before we leave the Optimus topic, I know they
can't hear
mentioned.
Dallas. Can you guys hear Dallas?
Yes.
I can hear him.
I'll be right back.
All right, keep going.
I just want to make a prediction on the Optimus thing before we move on from that topic. I know they mentioned that Optimus was involved in the 4680 production line, and they kind of said in parentheses, extremely small portion of that. I do think in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see potentially a larger presence of them, specifically within Tesla, but maybe even some other companies like SpaceX or Boring Company or whatever. But I think they're going to want to demonstrate that, right? And that's going to be at Giga Texas for sure. So I think in the next 12 to 18 months, you'll be able to see visuals of those, Optimus platforms making a pretty decent impact on the assembly line, which would make for the most insane marketing material ever, but would also prove to other potential customers in the manufacturing field, look at what they're capable here, of doing, and then, let us implement this into your manufacturing processes as well.
Thank you. All right, we have Telescope on the board. Telescope, welcome.
Thank you. How's everyone's morning been?
Everything is going well. How are you? What's new with you?
Really good. I just had a little meeting with the team at TSLA. I kind of stay in communication with them every few months or so to kind of catch up, but they're a wonderful team.
All right. Well, do you want to tell us all the secrets for the next 5 years?
Absolutely. So starting with
Oh no, audio connection. Well, is there anything you can share?
we're nothing's again kind of concrete yet, but we're looking at some ways to kind of collaborate between our 2 services slash apps. I really love and I love supporting kind of companies and even apps and accounts and individuals that kind of put good into the community. So we're looking at some ways to kind of build some features into both of our apps using each other's kind of features of data to make for better experiences. Another sentiment, which I'm sure Omar can relate to, is it was very nice to hear that I'm not the only developer that has been kind of having a little bit of a rough time with the fleet telemetry. It looks like TesLab and a lot of other kind of services and apps have kind of been struggling with it as well. We're pretty much close to fully implementing it, but it's been a rough time.
Yeah, you made an announcement a few days ago. Would you like to give us a summary? I think you're working on very interesting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so Tesla Scope already records kind of your driving sessions and charging sessions, but focusing more on driving. So the fleet telemetry is a kind of an additional build out that Tesla is now offering through their kind of their fleet APIs, and it allows for access to a lot of new data that we've previously never had access to, including even as technical as like the drive inverter, the amount of like acceleration and pressure on the pedal, but more importantly, and what's really, really cool for us and for even a lot of developers is that we now have a complete glimpse and view of the autopilot and full self-driving status. So you're able to see a bunch of details about if it's enabled, if it was recently disengaged, if the disengagement was by the user or if it was by the system. So like if it was the like the red wheels came up or the red steering wheel, you're able to see if it was recently deactivated or not. You're essentially given a complete view of everything. And using that data, you're able to, especially if you're requesting enough, to know exactly how much of a percentage of a drive was full self driving activated for. So whereas previously that was only accessible for those with Tesla insurance, soon Tesla Scope as well as any other developers that are incorporating. And I know Omar is working on another really awesome project incorporating kind of the same data. You're able to finally see actual live data about how FSD versions are performing, knowing your for your own drives exactly how much or how frequently you are using FSD. And for as a little fun aspect, it also allows for us to kind of provide like actual leaderboards. So you'll know before it was the leaderboards were kind of limited to safety score or to those who still have Tesla insurance, but soon any driver in North America and soon to other countries, which I'm very excited about, will be able to participate in that. So you can kind of see, whether your experience matches a lot of other vehicles, whether it's your same model, your same kind of year, knowing whether there's actually actual data to see whether hardware 3 or hardware 4 is having any type of difference. But so far, there's been about 3 to 5 vehicles that I've been testing this data with, of a mix of hardware 3 and hardware 4. And interestingly, at least right now, it's looking like the data is pretty similar. But a lot of really cool opportunities are going to be unlocked in the next couple months as developers and apps start incorporating this data. So it's a very, very exciting time for just kind of Tesla in general. Even from the software aspect to the developer aspect, there's so much going on behind the scenes.
Awesome. And how is Omar? How is this different from what you're trying to do?
Well, Tesla Scope is really obviously a product to fully manage your fleet, including FSD data, but basically everything the Tesla API can do. Versus what I'm doing is really focused on just gathering statistics for my own FSD drives to evaluate the performance and look at different data around the drives, and also opening that up to other cars as well. So, this new fleet API is super powerful. It's going to allow us to evaluate FSD performance and do many more things. The kind of granular access the fleet telemetry API is giving is almost like having an ODB port plugged into the car. Like they'll give you things like how much is the accelerator pedal pressed and how much is the brake pedal pressed. So if you're a fleet owner and you see all these fleets of police cars and government vehicles, even private fleets that people have for their business or for different purposes, it's really cool that you can have them configured to send this data up to the server. And it's all secure. It's all end-to-end encrypted. They've actually got great OAuth working, so your account's secure. You can give granular permissions to the app, only giving it what it needs. Don't give it permission to steal your car. And then you've got this end-to-end encrypted service. The beautiful thing about it is Tesla never actually sees the data. It's sent straight from the car to your server as a fleet manager. And this is all very complicated. You're probably not going to deal with this directly as a fleet manager, but you can go pick up a copy of a product like Tesla Scope and you can view your whole fleet, check the battery status, check everything on the vehicle all remotely. So if you're a fleet operator, this is really a great idea, great reason to just get all Teslas. They're already super affordable. They're already the lowest cost in maintenance. And without installing any extra hardware, you've got this great fleet management built in. It really is like nothing else you see in the auto industry. And it works on every single model Tesla has, which, I mean, for legacy auto, that's just a pipe dream.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Telescope or Omar or anybody else on the board? Please request a speech. Telescope, do you have any predictions for Q3 deliveries? Actually, before that, I saw Uzi's hand go up. Maybe on the topic, Uzi.
No. I want to hear Telescope.
What's your question? Just tell me the question. Uzi always tries to, dude, just ask the question. Why are you trying to co-host?
It's macro analyst bum, doesn't do anything. No, I'm just kidding. I was curious if anyone saw the Waymo interview yesterday.
Waymo what?
The interview the Waymo CEO gave on the All In Summit.
Oh, I gotta watch that. I didn't even know. Thank you, Uzi. See, there you
Which
go.
Waymo CEO?
I'm gonna butcher her name.
Tekanda Makwanda.
Yes.
There you go. Uzi living up to the tweet at the top. Original insights. Thank you for letting us know that we need to, I should watch that. Been busy this morning. It was a busy morning. Neil, then Dallas.
I'd just like to say that the fact that Tesla is willing to let us treat our vehicles like an IoT device is a beautiful thing. We can capture history. I think ultimately over time, historical data is just as valuable as real-time data. And it's just a great thing. And I hope that anyone who builds software, right, who's hitting these APIs, I mean, trust me, I get it. I don't want someone storing my historical data to be used against me, but there's a lot of value in what Tesla provides with these IoT devices known as our cars, spinning all this stuff out. I hope this data gets stored and we can leverage it later for battery, efficiency, motor efficiency, all the other things, right? We're going to have more data about our cars than any other consumers in history.
Yeah, like Neil said, I agree completely. There's a lot of value here. Just like there's a lot of value on Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. And because you're part of the TSLA Live community, Joa is hooking you up. Use code TSLA Live for a special discount. And where there's extreme value is pay more. If you have old electronics, they buy and they pay more. That's where the name comes from. They buy, sell, trade, and recycle your electronics. So you care about the earth, sell their old electronics to pay more. They recycle it because Paymore believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Join the Paymore revolution. Visit one of their 100 stores near you or visit paymore.com. And please go up to the top of your screens and leave a word of appreciation for our sponsors, Paymore and Joa. Let them know that you appreciate them for sponsoring this space, for keeping this space going. Without our sponsors, it would be very difficult to do so. Let's go to Dallas, then Omar.
Yeah, Telescope, while we got you in here, I was looking at your pinned tweet that you have or post on the top of your account. I saw the app update that got pushed earlier this week with the changes to the summon page where it warns people who have ultrasonic sensors that basically that feature just is terrible. Do you think that pushes in the right direction to see that maybe in the not too distant future we're going to see that feature release wide, or does that lend any credence to you at all?
I think it's a quality of life feature that should be there regardless of the kind of the upcoming rollouts. But I'm pretty hopeful that we're going to see a lot more kind of action or activity before the end of the month. Obviously, we know that actual Smart Summon only went out to a good handful. You always want to think that it's only to 2, 3, 4 vehicles based on the accounts on X, but outside of the employee group, the special group, kind of the early testers, is pretty sizable. It's a little bit under 100 vehicles. So there is a lot of data still coming in for Tesla to be able to use and to work with. Again, we haven't really gotten too much communication from Tesla regarding like why it's not rolled out yet. But so my prediction is that it's going to be coming out as just a very minor point release. Still be on 15.3. So anyone who has been moved to 15.2, or even those who are still waiting on 12.3.6, I wouldn't worry too much. We should see more connectivity either this weekend or in the following week. But I have a very good hunch that we'll see something happen before the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any showstoppers.
Hey, Omar, did you have anything to say about the API?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Tesla's really doing a good job of taking a top-notch approach on privacy, which as vehicles become really smart, you really want to pay attention to this. If Mary Barra is implementing your vehicle software security, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and your local mafia and everybody is going to have your live location. They're going to know what you're listening to and where you're going. You don't want that. Not only has Tesla done this incredible end-to-end encryption where they don't know what your data is, if law enforcement asks them, they can't tell you because they just don't have the data. They have this little privacy icon when your location's being accessed in the menu bar. So even if an app like Teslascope or my FSD database is accessing your car, you see that icon in the menu bar anytime someone can see your location. And you can actually click it and it'll tell you what apps are using your location. So it'll say teslascope.com or fsddb.com or whatever. Even if my dad is checking where I am when I'm driving over to visit him or something, I can see that little icon pop up. So in this age where cars are connected, they're part of the Internet of Things or the Internet of Shit, as some say, and you want that data to be secure. And Tesla's really done a good job of putting privacy first. And you know that, okay, if someone's looking at where I am, that icon's there. If it isn't, then no app or person is pulling my location.
Great, thank you. Tesla stock is up 7.2% right now, 7.2% at $243.50. Amazing. All technology stocks are up. NVIDIA up 5%, Apple up 4%, chip stocks are up across the board. Let's see, Meta up 4%, Google up 2%. Utilities are down, and consumer defensives are down. So it's very much a risk-on type of day. Market seems to be liking 50 basis points of a cut. Initial claims came in lower than expected, so maybe the unemployment market is stable for now. The employment market is stable. JC.
I find it interesting that everything is up across the board except for one interesting stock. BYD is down 2% today.
Yeah, Chinese economy is in doldrums right now. Maybe that's why. We have a new speaker, Gogo Electric. Go ahead.
How's it going, guys? I just had a question about 1010. Considering our cars can pretty much already do WB Studios, easily, what features do you guys think they would show us that's different that we haven't already seen?
Omar?
The event is primarily going to be focused on new vehicles and new vehicle hardware.
Gotcha.
I mean, I would expect they're going to show the rideshare app, the Tesla Network app. Obviously, there's software involved in making it drive itself. But really, this is a vehicle unveil.
I think there's also a
Thanks.
very good chance that we're going to see the Robotaxi with no steering wheel, or at least a recessed steering wheel, which obviously requires a completely substantial difference in kind of the expected experience.
Yeah, the cyber cab.
So that was actually a topic that Ben of Tesla and I were speaking about earlier, just before this call or before this meeting, was we're taking bets that the actual software running on this vehicle is going to be a lot different than the experience. There'll be similarities, but it still will probably run a different version of the Tesla OS that we're used to, especially since it isn't intended to be a kind of a consumer-owned vehicle, or essentially looking at it as a device. So it should be a lot more focused on the visualizations, knowing exactly where you're going, and kind of going from there. What are your thoughts on that, Omar?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, totally open game. I think they're going to reimagine every part of the experience. If you remember the Cybertruck event, they launched with a very different UI there at the event. So, yeah, I think they're going to really rethink every aspect of this vehicle. It's not just, hey, let's cut out the steering wheel and pedals. It's what does a vehicle really look like for this use case?
Machine, did you read the tweet at the top? Machine,
I'm reading it now, and I don't know. I think it's.
would you like to read it out loud?
I can only see part of it. Tesla Live speakers are elite, always have the facts right, able to stand high, constant pressure from me, can switch topics instantly, produce original insight, blah, 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 blah. Machine is the best speaker in the spaces, cannot be denied. The polls have validated multiple comments begging me from different people to come back to the spaces. That's what the tweet said.
Yeah, close. What do you think about Omar's comment that Optimus is 10x to 100x harder to develop than FSD?
Omar, if that's his real name, always is a master of red herring, straw manning arguments that people didn't create. I agree with him that to make Optimus perform all the tasks it possibly could would be more than 10x harder than developing FSD. The problem is that Optimus doesn't have to solve all the tasks it possibly could to be very useful and very profitable. And I would disagree that saying getting Optimus to work in fast food restaurants, for instance, and provide a subset of tasks would require 10x the effort as Robotaxi. I disagree with that for sure. And yeah, I'll end there.
Okay. Omar, anything to counter that?
Yeah, I mean, Optimus is already being used in the factory in a small scale. FSD is already being deployed, supervised. They've launched Smart Summon. They're going to start launching some unsupervised services. So I think both have ways to monetize the products before they realize their full potential.
Telescope.
I just want to chime in and say, would you go as far to say that it will be at least one order of magnitude better?
Neil.
All right. So ultimately, let me think about this. The scenario I was trying to talk about. Hold on here. I almost forgot. Hold on.
Okay, while Neil thinks, if
Yeah.
Nirav Patel wants to come up and tell us about his recent trade, and in the meantime, Machine.
What I will say is I cannot wait for October 10th when finally Tesla unveils the Robotaxi and the hardware 5 required for the Robotaxi. And the millions and millions of Tesla shareholders, hardware 3 and hardware 4 owners are going to shrivel up and cry in the corner when they realize their cars will not be instantly engaged on the Robotaxi network. The disappointment will come flooding through the spaces. Tesla, Yaman is going to have to offer
Not in my spaces.
support.
That's
You're going to have
never going to happen.
special
No, that's never going to happen. There's not going to be a single
Emotional support.
complainer on my speaker board. Not a single complainer will make it through the filter.
Very sad. And once if I had to bet right now, Kamala Harris wins the election, when that becomes evident, Tesla's share price is going to go down to, I would say, probably $170 with the sentiment that you can't have your robotaxi. And at that point, I'll probably buy the stock.
So you're still not in the stock. So the 50 basis point cut that you thought was a smart thing to do, that you did not think the Fed would do because they're not as smart as you are, and that they ended up doing, didn't change your mind.
No, I'm thinking of starting to short either the NASDAQ or maybe a little bit Tesla. Right now I'm net long, but I'm adding some short positions for the medium term because I believe there's two things. One is the election uncertainty. I believe there'll be a correction from that. And if not that before, there's also this noise coming out from supply chain potential issues of a strike at the ports in the US. I don't know if you caught wind of this. There's potentially going to be a long strike at all the ports on the eastern and western seaboards, which I believe it's Flexport CEO is saying would cause a massive supply crunch, much larger than what happened during COVID. So if this is something to pay attention to in the next few weeks, I believe it's supposed to happen beginning of October. If that happens, I will absolutely not be long any stocks.
Okay. Just FYI, I get a window of these things before you even know what a supply chain means. By the way, there's on YouTube right now, there's a discussion going on about Optimus and porn. If you want to join that discussion, go over to the YouTube channel. Neil, go ahead.
So regardless of the Doomcast that Machine has been talking about, with 1010, there is the situation where you've got one second.
Okay. Yoshi.
Hey, hello, Yaman. Just a comment going back to the interview with Tekendra Mawakawa, the co-CEO of Waymo. I listened to it a couple of days ago or yesterday, I think. One of the things that strikes me is that being the CEO of co-CEO of Waymo and going into that interview, there were so many technical questions or kind of the profitability, per ride. And it was surprising how she didn't have the answers. And in so many cases, she was just simply deflecting these answers and allowing the other besties to actually have the discussion. She even accepted that she enjoyed having them, coming to the conclusions. And where am I getting with all this is that if the top contender or competitor of Tesla in autonomous vehicles is Waymo, and they have a CEO which her education is in law and political science and has been with a career record in just simply, some of these government, agencies, it actually is striking that, the mentality, right? You just simply go by the DNA of these companies. And this just basically makes me very bullish, with what we're going to see in 1010 and moving forward.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for that summary. You know what I noticed a few weeks ago is that, look at this. Uzi just asked a question and completely changed the he added value with his question and prompted a new speaker to come up and share his insights. And that's what this space is about. That is not replicable anywhere else, with a predetermined agenda or predetermined set of speakers. It's only possible in spaces. And Uzi, Dallas had a number of good comments today. What I noticed is that people with fewer than 10,000 followers tend to do better in this space. And also people who are more than 100,000 followers. But the people between 10 to 100,000 followers range tend to have a problem on the speaker board.
Yeah, I mean,
Just a
man,
rule of thumb.
I just
Like for example, I hope that Neil develops this habit of stay on mute and raising his hand to be called upon, as opposed to anyway. Yeah, that's the interesting observation. People between fewer than 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers, and more than 100,000 followers do great. People between 10 to 100, they have a chip on their shoulder. It's really weird. Anyway, Machine.
Well, thank you for that comment. That was really about me. We all know that I'm the original OG of this space, growing my followers from 0 twice to a few thousand without any naming anything about love Tesla investor in my profile. There's nothing there. There's nothing but an I. All the other ones slacking off, just trying to be lazy. I'm going to create a new profile that just says Tesla blonde lover or something like that and see how many followers I get. But you're right. All these other people with more than 10,000 followers, like yourself and Omar, very terrible investors, very terrible insight.
No, the thing is, like, people with more than 100,000 followers, they already they don't care. They're like, they just want to add value. They don't really care about if I move them down or if I yell at them, if I mute them. Like if I've muted Omar, moved him down, kicked him out even once, I think, and he doesn't care because he's better than that. And then people with fewer than 10,000 followers, they just want to be in this space. They want to be part of the conversation. They're ambitious. They're hungry. They want to learn, which is the right attitude, So they don't care if I move them down once or twice. But people with 10 to 100,000 followers, that like middle ground is a weird gray area. Omar?
Yeah, I just want to sort of reflect on the calls to torches and pitchforks by people like Machine over the last few months. Oh, hardware 3, it's never going to work. You need to, sue them, class action lawsuit, burn Ashok at the stake. And they said, hey, guys, we think we can, we made the model 5 times larger. We think we can run it on hardware 3 too, but we're going to have to make some changes to get it to run. And people just spread all this nonsense, got people upset, told them hardware 3 wasn't going to work. And today they've successfully shipped the full-size model on hardware 3 and hardware 4. And in my testing, it functions virtually identically. Okay? So everything they said was wrong. And now they're still coming in. They're saying, oh, hardware 3, it's never going to work. I mean, if you see what it's doing now, it does almost every drive without an intervention. I think they can get, when you look at the Cortex cluster, you look at Dojo, you look at everything else, I think they can get a lot higher from here. The goal of the team is really to make every car on the road drive as well as it can possibly drive. And they're going to continue to do that. So it's just pure fear mongering. It has nothing to do with what customers are actually seeing.
Okay. I'm going to go to Machine in a second, but just before that, let's give a word to Tesla. And I want to make it clear, when I say 10 people, 10 to 100,000, that's just a rule of thumb. There are people exceptions to every rule. And Tesla Scope obviously is not one of those people. There's always great insight, great value. And I think he's just busy to come too often. But Tesla Scope, go ahead.
I'm saying I'm a terrible speaker. I'm kidding. No, I was gonna say if you look at the release notes of 12.5.3 of part of the actual smart summon, you'll see that it's coming soon is the MyQ and the HomeLink support. The actual reason for that is Tesla has been keeping track of anyone who has expressed concern or complained about the hardware 3, and they're going to flip a switch on 1010, and all those vehicles are instantly going to get actual smart summon activated. It's going to open up your garage if you have MyQ or HomeLink installed or enabled, and it's going to start driving to the factory no matter where it is. So just a heads up for that.
Machine, would you like to defend yourself?
Well, I
You
think
have been wrong lately. I mean, Omar is not wrong. You have been wrong lately.
I have not been wrong about any hardware 3 issues, and there's just people creating false arguments. And I suggest most of your listeners.
Didn't you say
True or
hardware?
false?
Yeah, exactly. Didn't you say hardware 3 can't run the same model as hardware 4?
Absolutely not. This is just total smearing. I can't, libel. I'm going to sue you for creating false narratives.
Hold on. Isn't libel the one?
This is so dumb. Can listeners ignore the host here, the man behind the curtain? Listen to me again. My words again. I never said that it would not be able
Dude,
to.
libel is when you write it, right? You don't even know the difference.
12.5. Elon Musk himself said 2 months ago that they're working on getting 12.5 to work on hardware 3. No one is arguing against that point. The point I said at that time was if it's so hard to get 12.5, the 5x parameter model, to work on hardware 3, if that's so hard, I didn't say it wasn't going to make it, then what's going to happen in a year or two when they need to?
No, you know what you said, Machine?
Don't interrupt me.
You know what you said?
I'm in the middle of an important
You said
statement.
hardware 3 is maxed out. And then they said,
And
hey, we're going to
yes,
run a model that's 5 times
Well,
bigger. Did
no.
you see
Tell him,
that
Omar.
coming? Did you
I
see
said-
that coming? That they were going to run a model that was 5 times bigger? That they had
Go,
that extra
Omar.
compute capacity?
Absolutely not. I was saying we weren't sure exactly where hardware 3 would be maxed out. Where I thought maybe it would be close. We're talking about the CPU usage, that they're using 2 cores. We didn't know when. I had that whole tweet thread where I was speculating. We're not sure exactly where it is. Then we got the information about 12.5, and that became the sticking point of, oh, when they get this on there, they're really going to be close to maxed out. So then it becomes, when they need to increase the model size again, another 5x, how are they going to do that? I don't think they can. Okay, if they're already maxed out, and they're going to need to increase it another 5x in order to get the performance up significantly higher, which they still need to do. Those things are all correct. Okay, you want to argue that they're somehow going to compress it faster than the benefits they're going to get from increasing the model? That is totally a speculative and in no way proven in machine learning. So good luck on that. I'm going to take what Elon Musk has said, the inference in his tweets about starting to show separation between hardware 3 and hardware 4. That's what he said, that's going to start happening. Okay, so I put it all together because I have a lot of common sense, unlike the rest of you, and I see what he's saying is hardware 3 is going to start drifting away from hardware 4. And now the latest we get is some hinting that maybe hardware 5 is going to be the one that has a special unsupervised model, and maybe hardware 4 even can't make it. I don't know. That I'm less sure of.
Yeah, I mean, nobody said that only hardware 5 will run unsupervised FSD. They want to make the software run as well as possible on all the cars. Obviously, hardware 4 is going to drive better than hardware 3. If it didn't, there would be no point in making hardware 4. But they're going to continue to update hardware 3. I mean, you look at this new function, they added hardware emulation in the compiler. Now they can have a new function. Now they can have a new model architecture. You can improve even within that training profile. You can upgrade the computer. And ultimately, people buy new cars, right? I mean, look at all these deals. People gradually replace hardware 3, hardware 4. The hardware in the fleet naturally is going to get upgraded over time. It's, a technical challenge for sure, but the way you're sort of dramatizing it compared to what the actual impact is on customers is that there's no difference between hardware 3 and hardware 4 today.
Do you remember when I initially brought this up? I don't know if you remember the background for your audience. This was around, there was a guy in, I believe, the Netherlands, Florian, who's bought a fleet of hardware 3 cars under the premise that eventually he'd be able to unlock them as robotaxis to make money. And I came up to say, whoa, wait a minute. This might not happen. And it's one thing to have it be a nice, fun toy, an idea for your personal car, but you have people making investment decisions, business decisions based on this idea that the hardware 3 vehicles are definitely going to be robotaxis. And I find that to be very risky. And I've given many reasons why. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm trying to stop people from making reckless investment decisions on this premise that it's guaranteed that their hardware 3 car is going to be a robotaxi. And there's plenty of evidence now that it might likely not be. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm trying to make sure people don't do stupid things.
I mean, I think any rational person with any technical understanding knows that getting a hardware 3 car to be driverless would be something that has never been achieved before. And there's no guarantee that it's going to be achieved. But at the same time, when they get FSD supervised running in 2025, hopefully in Q1 2025, I bet you Florian is going to be getting a lot of calls about leasing for his fleet.
Yeah, and Machine, just to kind of, there's a nuance there. I don't think he bought a fleet of Teslas just because of robotaxis. Like, he leases them out. He has long-term leases for them. He's still making money even without robotaxis. And like Omar said, I mean, Machine, are you claiming that? I mean, I think he's profitable. My understanding is that. So we have a lot of people requesting to speak here, raising their hands. Neil?
Yeah, real quick, I think a robo requirement is wireless charging. This was the thing I was trying to spit out the past 2 or 3 times. But I think wireless charging, if you talk about a 1010 reveal, it's great that it's a hardware scenario. We all know about the software. The software is nothing new. 1010 is a hardware scenario, and it's probably the cyber cab. But I also think, like, I really think you need wireless charging to make this a reality. I'd like to get thoughts from everyone.
Okay. 15-minute warning. 15-minute warning. Okay. Great set of speakers. Let's go to Dallas, and now we have a new speaker who thinks Machine is right, Omar is wrong. Dallas?
I mean, wireless charging is definitely something that's going to have to be a part of this, robotaxi network. I mean, unless they come up, I saw some crazy video a while ago where there was a robotic arm that would charge the car. That seems way more difficult than just putting a wireless charger on the bottom of the vehicle. So,
okay, here's our new speaker who left a reply. Okay, and he said, Machine is right, and he knows what he's talking about. Omar's blog has been spreading wrong information lately about hardware 3. So let's see what he has to say. Mehul.
Hey guys, so I have been listening to this space for a really long time and very informational. I do believe there is limitation with hardware 3, and I don't think we have all the information. And I think what Machine is saying logically makes sense to me. Unless you guys disagree, and if you have better or more logical answer, I'm happy to hear.
Well, here's the problem. So you said Omar is spreading misinformation, which tells me that, but then you came up and you started with, I think. So it sounds like you have a difference in opinion rather than for a fact that Omar is spreading misinformation. Which is it, Mehul?
So so I have a hardware 3 model S, which is a 2018. I had a 2018, which got into an accident. And then I had a 2019. I have 2019. What I've noticed with that car is there's a cabin camera, and which I brought this up with Omar before too. And I still have not received the update. For months, we've been talking about 12.5, right?
That's
and
fine.
Lots of parts,
but you
and lots
still,
of parts have not
Mehul,
received. Yeah.
okay. So you still haven't provided any sort of information that proves Omar's position wrong to support your claim that he's spreading misinformation. So it sounds like to me that you're tougher behind the keyboard than on the speaker board. That's why I like the space. Where is the proof that Omar is wrong, Mehul?
Where's the proof that he's right?
Well, he's expressing an opinion.
I mean, just because you haven't gotten the update doesn't mean there's a problem with hardware 3. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there are cars with hardware 3 that are running the software. My dad's Model 3 is running it. Zach Feld's Black Model 3, his car is running 1253 and has actual smart summon. And we did a comparison. The performance is identical. I drove my dad's hardware 3 and my hardware 4. The performance is identical. They really have to do a lot of work validating it and making sure it's not a regression. A lot of people who have gotten it have said, hey, it's doing worse at this than 12.3 did. So this new end-to-end model, I think, is posing some challenges with validation, but absolutely the hardware can run the latest software, and it can run it just as well as hardware 4 can. Eventually, there will be versions of the software that hardware 4 runs better, but today they're running the exact same model.
But do you really feel, and genuinely, just ask yourself, do you feel any hardware 3 cars will be a robotaxi cars?
I think it's certainly possible that they could become driverless. You're
So I
already
think that's what
seeing
Machine was saying. I don't think Machine was saying the same thing. He doesn't believe hardware 3 cars will be robotaxis. And I don't think you're disagreeing with that either.
No, I am disagreeing. I think it's possible that they could. Like, you can already get in these hardware 3 cars and you can have them drive for hours without doing anything, right? You could get in the back seat theoretically, and it's not advisable because it can still sometimes have issues. But if you did it for even, 5-10 minutes, even an hour, it would be able to do the drive. So you're starting to see it actually make mistakes less than I do, go the wrong way less than I do. I accidentally ran a stop sign. And you say, okay, well, look at the way deep learning's advancing. Could this thing be driverless? And you consider the fact that the computer's upgradable, the cameras are upgradable. I think a lot of these cars will be driverless. I think
Okay.
fundamentally, all you really need is actuation, and any car can be upgraded to autonomy.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left. However, if in the next 5 minutes we get 30 likes on the YouTube channel, we'll keep it going for another half hour. Okay, so 1 minute per like. We'll keep it going. Let's hear from Machine. Machine, you just got a massive support from Mehul Shah. He came out for the first time after listening to this space for a long time. He said, just to support you. What do you think about that?
Well, I appreciate anyone. Thank you, Mehul, who comes out to stand in front of the face of a crowd of incompetent people who don't know what they're talking about, but they're a crowd. And so they seem like they have the force with them. What's happening here is Omar is, you got to pay attention to his wording. He's actually not saying for sure that there's going to be a robotaxi, because deep down, he does have some part of his brain that works, and he understands that may not. So he doesn't want to actually say for sure it's going to be a robotaxi, because he kind of actually knows, but he wants to sound positive about Tesla always, right? If you've listened to this space, everything Omar says he will twist in a way that's positive for Tesla. Donald
Yeah,
Trump
I don't
elected
think so.
positive for Tesla.
Listen,
Kamala Harris elected
here's the
positive
thing.
for Tesla.
I think he has a very good argument. He has a very good argument.
Let me explain to you the real. Again, I'm going to explain the real information. The key here for everyone: the cars currently, the version currently, is not at a level for robotaxis. Its critical disengagement rate is not near robotaxi level. It can have some great drives, like Omar has. I believe him. That doesn't mean it's at robotaxi level for many people, and let alone most people. What that means is they need to progress the model further. The main way to progress the models further to get higher accuracy is, in parallel, increasing the model size and increasing the amount of data and increasing the amount of training. All three of those parameters need to increase. That's why they went to a 5x higher model.
Would you agree that model size increases are not the only way to improve a model?
I say it's not the only, but the other ones have diminishing returns, and Tesla is still at least another 10 to 30x
That's not true.
That is absolutely true.
False.
It's absolutely true.
I cannot believe you claim
Machine.
expertise.
The critical disengagement rate right now is a few hundred miles. This thing
Machine.
needs to get to 10, 20,000 at least miles per critical disengagement. And
You guys acting like it's so close is totally disingenuous of statistics.
That's not true.
And so here's what I want to ask you now. So what
Straw
do you
man.
think? Version 13, do you think V13 will have the same model size as 12.5?
No, that's not part of the argument. You're arguing a straw man.
There's no
Okay.
art, straw man. You guys think
Can
this
I-
thing
can
is
I-
at
can I-
robotaxi level is a total
Listen.
farce.
Listen, can I hear from Omar, who's more intelligent and makes more coherent arguments?
Machine, I already offered. I will upgrade you to hardware 3. I'll pay $1,000, $1,200 to upgrade your car to hardware 3. Because a person looking at this from purely a theoretical perspective, I mean, I, as a software engineer, if you told me, hey, I bet you I can drive a car through Los Angeles for hours without you touching a thing using a 1.2 megapixel camera, I'd have said you're nuts. But if you actually start using it in your day-to-day life, ask it to do your drives, you'll notice that hardware 3 can already do almost every drive without you touching a thing. So go ahead, make a service ticket. I will pay $1,200 to upgrade your hardware 2.5 car to hardware 3. And let's see what you come back with in this space after
Okay.
using it for your daily drives.
We have a lot of hands, and I'm gonna go through all the hands real quick, but okay, let's go through the hands. Tesla scope.
So a couple topics to hit on, but I wanted to talk about just the difference between hardware 3 and hardware 4. Omar's experience with hardware 3 matching very closely, if not identically, with hardware 4 is not unique to him. Dirty Tesla, as well as a lot of the other testers who have had the latest 15.2 and 15.3 builds, have also expressed the same sentiment. And it's one thing for a subjective opinion. It's one thing to kind of to be able to cast your doubts on that, but more than anything, through the service that Omar is working on, as well as kind of the additions to Tesla Scope, we will soon be able to see, if you don't trust opinions and you want to see actual data, you will be able to finally determine for a fact whether or not a specific version is performing better on version 3 or version 4 in the next couple of weeks and months. Once we are starting to incorporate that data, you'll be able to very easily tell whether or not a version is performing based on the disengagements, based on the amount of interventions, and the amount of percentage that someone feels confident utilizing FSD on their drives. The other importance is, there's a big difference between saying or claiming that a vehicle is compatible or will be compatible with Robotaxi and defending the notion that it is at this point better or worse. For all accounts, I would agree with Omar that the sense that I expect for hardware 3 to perform identically to hardware 4 for a good foreseeable future. Tesla's still going to be pushing out updates for those configurations for a good amount of time. It might not be forever, but I still expect it to happen for the next year or two, and for there to not be too much of a difference. And it's one thing to say, okay, well, I don't believe that hardware 3 is ever going to be a robotaxi, but you've seen videos, or I hope you've seen videos of hardware 3 performing with smart summon almost identically to hardware 4. And the only difference between actual smart summon and full autonomy with robotaxi is just the regulations about being able to use it outside of a parking lot. If that vehicle can navigate the maneuvers, go through around vehicles, be able to negotiate with other drivers in a parking lot, that's just one short step away from being able to do that on any freeway or anything from that extent going forward. It's just about Tesla working with regulators to get it approved and get it outwards. So I think all eyes, if you cast or have any doubts about hardware 3 or any of the future, just make sure you're watching or participating on 1010, see what Tesla announces, see what any of the individuals who are invited who get to do the test drives have to say, and kind of change or cast your opinion after that. There's a lot of things up in the air, but I genuinely think that there's still a lot of life left in hardware 3. I have a 2018 Model 3 with hardware 3, obviously, and I've expressed my own feelings about hoping for retrofits or so forth. But I genuinely I adore my car. I was one of the very few fortunate to get I think the still 12.5.1 or so forth, but I was able to have a complete drive for about 20 minutes, completely nag free, no hands on the wheel, from my house all the way to the mall and back with zero intervention. Even my fiance, who's very critical of FSD at times, was actually very impressed. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very optimistic, and I get those sentiments, I get those concerns, but I think that there's a
Yeah.
lot up in the air.
Yeah, machine couldn't handle all the facts you're dropping, and therefore he went to YouTube live chat, probably to give a thumbs down to the stream. And he says in the live chat, he says, people are in total denial. Actually, I'm going to try to make his voice. People are in total denial. They don't understand statistics. 9 out of 10 people can have gray rides for weeks in FSD, and yet one person has a critical disengagement. That happens, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to engage with him, you can do it with that. Lauren?
Yeah, I keep hearing talk about like, oh, we can't do robotaxi without these wireless, touchless chargers, and I just totally disagree. I think it's an obvious first use case or early use case for Optimus robots, which we were talking about earlier as well. All they got to do is put them at the superchargers. They plug in the cars, they unplug them. As their software gets better, they can clean the cameras. They can also clean the cars, etc., etc. And I think people totally underestimate how much heat. They say, oh, it only loses 5 to 10% losses. Well, it's going to end up in heat, and how big an issue that would be at supercharged speeds. So, yeah, that's what I got on that.
Okay. Alejandro.
Couple of things that amazes me when they say that you cannot do the robotaxi today. Waymo is making some arrangement with Uber so they can charge their cars, so they can clean their cars and so forth. This whole metric about critical disengagement or disengagements that I'm not sure what he's comparing, or this Motorhead is comparing for saying that Tesla will not do it. There is no way of comparing the disengagement that Waymo is reporting against the disengagement that Tesla has, because people disengage sometimes on times when there is no real reason to disengage, just because they are uncomfortable. So those metrics cannot be compared as the same apple to apple. So that's my only comment.
Thank you. Neil, then Tezoscope.
Just like to say, wireless charging, do not discount it. It is the reality. We talk about requirements for robotaxis. So again, I just like to challenge this group, this team of EV professionals, to understand: is wireless charging required? For the robotaxi, and I think it's just it's an advantage you cannot deny.
Yeah, Tezoscope.
I'm gonna say, just in this call in the last 5 minutes, a ton of updates just went out. We just saw another wave of the latest FSD build, 12.5.2.1, just going out to additional waves, about 50% of the total amount of vehicles that had received it originally. It's going out primarily to vehicles on 12.3.6, on mostly on 24.26.7 and 0.8. And then just moments ago, we also saw Cybertruck receive a update to Auto Park to be able to have a couple little bug fixes. So we went out to Chuck's vehicle, went out to, looks like, Dirty Tesla's Cybertruck as well. So there's been a lot of momentum in the last 2 minutes. So I'm just about to quote someone who just said at Tesloscope, after 7 months of 12.3.6, finally. So I'm quoting and saying, in quotes, 12.3.6 must die. I'm quoting Omar.
That's awesome. Tesla Live is living up to its name. We're getting live news from Tezoscope, and this is only possible because of our sponsors and all the people who liked the video on YouTube. We just got the 30 likes. Thank you very much, everybody. We can go on for a few more minutes. And I want to say a quick shout out to our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. And because you're part of the Tesla Live family, Joe is hooking you up. Use code TSLA Live at checkout for a special discount. And Pay More. Pay More buys, sells, trades, and recycles your old electronics, because Pay More believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Both links are at the top of your screens. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, we have Mahul. So would you like to please take back your claim that Omar is spreading misinformation? Because misinformation implies that he is misstating facts. And I don't think that's true. He might be more optimistic, but I don't think he's misstating facts here. And he's doing a great service to the community. So I would appreciate if you just pull it back.
The possibility of hardware 3 being a robotaxi versus actually, I think at some point we need to be very clear what we're saying every day.
Yeah. Mehul, are you claiming that the probability of hardware 3 cars become robotaxiable is 0%?
Close to.
So it's not 0% is what I'm getting out of you.
Yeah, but it's not 100% either.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Are you sure it's going to happen?
No, but I don't think it's 0, and I don't think it's 100, and I don't think Omar is claiming it's 100% either.
I think it's close to 0, the way things are going.
You're looking
Omar,
at
what do you
it the
think?
completely wrong way. This is not how Tesla looks at it at all, okay? There are millions of cars out there. They're able to now do drives entirely on their own. So we're going to continue driving down the rate of mistakes they make. Less and less and less. Whatever the limit is, we're going to find it. And I mean, you're always surprised in software. Nobody ever said it was guaranteed, okay? From the very beginning, you read the fine print, this is dependent on us doing billions and billions of miles and receiving regulatory approval, which they don't even have control over. It's not about this is 100% going to happen. It's if we can make it happen, we will save people's lives. We will change people's lives. We will stop people from getting permanently injured. So we're going to do everything we can to do it. And the computers come right off. I don't think people realize that. The only reason that they haven't made an upgrade available is it would be pointless. The hardware 4 cars are currently running the hardware 3 models in emulation mode. They're downsampling the input images so that they can use the model that's trained on hardware 3 images. So, I mean, it would just be pointless. It doesn't mean it can't be done. This company has an insane commitment to backwards compatibility. It's so funny that people criticize them. There are cars that people bought in 2016, 8 years ago, running the latest version of FSD. 8 years ago, running the latest full self-driving software. I went and tried my buddy's 2018 Model 3. It's running the exact same no-nag software as my 2024 Model 3. You know what legacy auto strategy for backwards compatibility is? If you come in with your 2018 and you say, give me the latest self-driving, it's GFY. Unless you're buying another car, we don't care. So these guys are insane about backwards compatibility. They're going to make each car on the road as good as it can possibly be. They're going to not even just stop at human level safety. They're going to continue going there. And time again, they have blown away what people thought was possible. So I would be careful doubting them from here on out.
Omar, 2 things. Again, you said something about a car that's really old with no nag. You and I have agreed that when there's a no cabin camera, there's no way it's going to be no nag.
Well, they've been putting cabin cameras on their cars for years now.
But the cars that don't have, there's no way you're going to tell me they're going to put a no nag in those cars. So for 2018 car, there were no cameras inside the car.
Wait, hold on. So, man, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't know if what you said is necessarily true, Mehul.
Oh.
Because let's say, for example, the software gets really, really good. You're having accidents every, few 100,000 miles, better than human. You don't need to monitor. If it's unsupervised, you don't need to monitor the person in the driver's seat. So there's going to be a period where the cars without a camera may not get the latest version or may not have no nags. But once software gets really, really good, where you don't need to monitor the person, then why wouldn't the car get it?
I wish that happens quickly. That's what we're all looking for.
I mean, it sounds to me like you're really frustrated with just the fact that your car hasn't gotten the update, but
that's one thing. But yeah,
I mean, they've started putting cabin cameras in their cars in 2017. So the Model S and X, it took a little longer to get it, but every 3 and Y has a cabin camera. SNXs even several years back have the cabin camera. For cars that are older than that, they've already undergone a camera retrofit. It's possible they could get a cabin camera retrofit for security. But to Yaman's point, I mean, once it's good enough for unsupervised, you don't need any attention monitoring. You don't need a nag. You don't need a cabin camera. You can just have the car drive. And so far, they haven't wavered on their commitment to support even the first cars that were sold with autopilot hardware too.
Okay. We have
Fair
other
enough.
hands. Meho, we gotta go to other hands real quick. Lauren,
Thanks.
Neil.
Hey, from an investor point of view, I see this whole discussion about the hardware 3 cars on Robotaxi is just such a sideshow, and that I feel like it just gets so much more oxygen than it should because people are so worried about their personal cars. Whereas I think from an investment, it's such a small part of the long-term value. Either way it turns out, like as long as they can solve full self-driving in Robotaxi, it's almost irrelevant to the long-term value as an investor, whether hardware 3 cars get it or not. They're not going to be liable to some huge class action. They put enough legalese in the contract when they sold it to us. And I get it. I'm frustrated. I'm waiting for my car to drive itself too. But I don't think it's that big an deal investment-wise.
Agree.
Yeah, he
Neil.
makes a pretty good point. Let's say they actually solved autonomy with hardware 5 or hardware 6, but it required the newer hardware. And they're now making millions and billions of dollars in revenue from solving autonomy. Give everyone a coupon. Give them free FSD. Hell, give them a free car if you've solved autonomy truly. Does it really matter? Come up with a computer upgrade. Like, who cares if they support the older hardware? If you can get it working driverless at all, even with newer hardware, that's a great start. And I'm sure the older cars are going to continue to get updated as well.
Neil.
I just like to tell everyone here and all of us to think about, is this a software, a compute problem, or is it a hardware problem? Right? That's going to go back and forth, but ultimately, I think it's a software problem. I think the hardware is there, and you can try and bounce back and forth between the two. So if you were going to say hardware was a limiting factor, that would mean the instructions are so complicated and taxing that the hardware can't handle it, right? I don't think that's going to be the case. I think ultimately we're going to have a scenario where this works out. So the question is, from a full self-driving, from a driving a car perspective, do you think driving a car is a software or a hardware problem?
Yeah.
I think in the
Yeah, I
modern
mean,
day,
the way I kind of,
it's a problem.
thank you. The way we kind of explain this is when you first learn how to drive, when you're 16, 17, 18, however old you were, you're very focused on everything that's going on the road. You're trying to get as much information as possible. You're very careful. You're just 100% focused on the driving. But as you get more experienced, you have your window down, music loud, chatting with the people. You're barely paying attention to the road, and you don't need as much brain power to drive the car. So even though at first it might require hardware 5 to be fully autonomous, as software becomes more efficient, then maybe hardware 4 cars, then maybe hardware 3 cars will be added to an autonomous network. So yeah, I disagree that, I think the probability of hardware 3 cars ultimately be robotaxiable is more than 0%. And I also think it's probably more than 10% too. Omar, what do you think?
It's my belief that by the year 2034, you'll be able to walk into Best Buy, buy a windshield mounted unit that you can mount on your windshield that can drive any car, including, a 1964 something. Assuming the steering wheel and pedals could be actuated by it somehow, you could drive even an old car, certainly a hardware 3 car. So I don't think people realize that it's going to be possible to make any car autonomous. Teslas already have all the sensors and computers hooked up. They have a huge leg up on the average car in getting autonomy sooner. If you have a Tesla, whether it's a hardware 3 or hardware 4 Tesla, you have the most advanced self-driving features available in the world on any car you can buy.
Very good. Very good. and the stock is up 7% today. Mehul, are you convinced? You feeling better after this
Listen,
conversation?
I'm a fan of Omar. I ask questions. There are a lot of things that do get said on the space, which is definitely very positive, but we want to be realistic. That's all. That's all I'm trying to bring.
Okay. Telescope.
Two things. Number one is there was a second wave after the initial wave, so the amount of pending vehicles just doubled a second time for the latest FSD build, including a lot of vehicles that were on 12.4.3, which I've seen a lot of replies last week of people feeling kind of lost in limbo. So with that, if there's any questions, I just wanted to give a little second, if that's okay, to answer them. Otherwise, I need to head out to do some errands.
All right. I think that's probably a good place to leave this. This was a great conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, please take a moment to like the video. We're going for record likes right now in this live space. And the only video that had got more likes on YouTube is my interview with Omar, and there's no beating that. So give it a like and leave a comment below the video. And if you're watching this, or if you're listening to this on X, please take a moment to share this with your followers, and let's grow Tesla together. Thank you very much, everybody. Great conversation today, and I will chat with you all tomorrow. Take care.